There is a tax window right now that millions of Americans in their 50s and 60s don't even know exists. And for the right person, this could save hundreds of thousands of dollars over their retirement years. You miss it, and the IRS will tell you how much you owe and when you owe it. So today we're going to be talking about Roth conversions, what the strategy, why timing matters, what the strategies are, and why it may be important for future tax rates. Right? But first of all, we're going to talk about what is a Roth conversion. Well, what's a traditional account? First of all, traditional account is a 401k, an IRA. Most of the people in this country have a lot of their assets, retirement assets, in those types of pre-taxed accounts. So it goes in tax-free, right, or tax deferred before taxes. And when it comes out, it becomes taxable. And that sounds like a good thing, depending on what tax rates are going to be in the future. Well, a Roth is the exact opposite. A Roth says, I'm going to pay taxes today so that I don't care what taxes are going to be in the future. Whether they go up or down, I'll never pay taxes on that account again, on the distribution or on the growth. A Roth conversion is taking money from a traditional IRA or 401k and converting it over to a Roth, meaning I'm paying taxes today so I don't have to pay taxes in the future. I'm doing this on purpose, right? So I'm doing this because I may believe that tax rates are going to be going up in the future, and our tax rates today, our tax system right now is going to be changing. Now, one of those beliefs might be because we are at a federal deficit of almost $39 trillion in federal deficit, okay? And the federal government doesn't make anything. What they do is to generate revenue, is one of the biggest portions they do is they tax. So if I believe taxes may be going up in the future, I might want to do some conversions from my IRAs and 401ks. Well, why? Well, there's a sweet spot. There's a window on doing this and why I would do it. Well, the sweet spot's going to be before you turn 73 or 75, okay? Because at those ages, you're forced to take required distributions. So let's say you're 62 and you're not getting a paycheck anymore. You've retired, but you're not going to collect Social Security, right? Well, what you may think about doing, because you're in a much lower tax rate right now, because you're not collecting any income, is you may want to think about starting to convert some of those IRAs and 401ks into Roths because you're in a much lower tax rate, probably one of the lowest tax rates you may ever see, right, in that gap. So, but if you're at 73 and you have done nothing, or 75, and you're forced to take money out because at those ages, you have to do what's called required minimum distribution. You're forced to take money out of those accounts. You don't have a choice. So if I'm 73 or 75, and I'm taking money out of those accounts and I'm collecting Social Security, it might put me in a much higher tax bracket than I ever thought I would be, right? Well, how do I know how much to convert? Well, it depends. And one of the things that people don't take in consideration is when you're looking at these types of things is if I'm in a bracket now, what happens if my spouse passes away, right? And now they have to file as a single person. That's a much higher tax bracket. But again, how do I know how much to convert? And this is where people get a little nervous. And it depends. So the good news is that there is a strategy called the bracket management, right? And what you're trying to do is keep yourself from going to the next bracket. So the brackets are 10, 12, 22, 24. Okay, those are the major brackets. They go up in the 30s. So let's say I'm in a 22% tax bracket, and I don't want to go above that. So think of it like a bucket of water, right? I don't want the water to spill over the edges. I want to get it right on top, okay? So I'm in a 22% tax bracket, but I want to do some Roth conversions. And so I've got about a $40,000 window before I go into the 24 bracket. So I'm going to take $40,000 and I'm going to convert it over to a Roth that I'll never pay taxes on again. I'm paying up front. But now you do that year after year, several years, and shift that amount of money over to tax-free territory. RMDs are gone now, and your taxes on your Social Security is a lot less. And the reason it is because Social Security is taxed based on what's called provisional income, meaning anything other than Social Security. And so if that's the case and my RMDs are lower because I've converted a lot of those monies over to Roth, and I don't have a forced distribution on a Roth, okay? There's no forced distributions on a Roth, right? Now, there is no one size fits all, folks. This is not for everybody. Conversion's not for everybody. It depends on a couple of things. It depends on your future income needs and wants. It depends on the size of your accounts. It depends on your age. Also depends on your health. This is not something you do on the back of a napkin, all right? You also want to make sure you take consideration your Medicare Part B premiums. All right, now what is IRMAA? IRMAA is what they charge if you make too much money. They're going to charge that premium Part B, or charge you more. That's exactly what IRMAA means. It's what's called an income-related monthly adjustment amount. I can never remember it. I have to write it down. Here's how that works. Medicare is broken into two parts, A and B. A is your hospital and B is your doctor. Well, as you work through all those years, that Medicare they took out of your check, that paid for Part A. So when you go into Medicare, you don't pay premiums in Part A anymore. You get it for free. Now, Part B is not free. There's premiums on that. That's your doctor's insurance. And the premiums are based on your income. So if I do some Roth conversions and I get aggressive about it, it could push my Medicare B premiums into a higher IRMAA tax bracket. So I'm paying more for my Part B. Now, what happens is they go back 2 years of your income, and that's what they're going to base your current premiums on. But your income could have changed from 2 years ago, but you're still paying that higher amount. I've seen people have to pay hundreds of dollars more a month per couple a month for Part B because they didn't have a strategy. Does this mean you avoid Roth conversions? Absolutely not, right? In most cases, the long-term savings, even if you're paying a higher Part B premium, is completely worth it. But you want to make sure you don't get blindsided by that. So that kind of goes into the next thing. How do I know, and how do I build a strategy? How am I supposed to do that? Well, everything we just talked about, whether it's conversions, widow's benefit, as far as the widow paying taxes or widower, RMDs, IRMAA, all of these don't exist in a vacuum. They're not isolated. They all have to be pieced together. A real Roth conversion strategy is a roadmap on where not to step, right? It takes taxes, Social Security, healthcare, all that IRMAA into consideration. And a good Roth conversion plan is something that you don't do just today or once. It is a year after year relationship that you build with someone to make sure you're on the right track. And you don't want the IRS, coming after accounts once you've already paid taxes on them. So if any of this resonates with you and you're in your 50s and 60s and you have IRAs or 401ks, this is the exact kind of conversations I have with my clients. Give me a call. Reach out to daniel.jones@aprfinancialgroup.com or 704-564-7060, and let's have a conversation. If you find any of this information helpful, please like and subscribe. We have other videos about Medicare and Social Security and what a mutual fund is. And take a look at some of our videos. We'd be happy to see if we'll be of service to you. So thank you so much for your time, and God bless.